Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to Season 19 of Pokemon Go Battle League. The move updates are officially live, so today we're going to be going through one of my most anticipated move updates, and that is Thunder Punch being given to Shadow Typhlosion. Previously, Shadow Typhlosion was stuck with Solar Beam as its coverage move, a move that can do a lot of damage but was far too expensive to be practical. But with Thunder Punch, it can get to a move in 10 turns guaranteed, and that dramatic increase in pacing proves to be a huge buff for Typhlosion. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Let's take a look at Shadow Typhlosion with Thunder Punch versus the Great League meta. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead, Shadow Gligar versus Shadow Alolan Sandslash. I throw one wing attack, safe switch into Feraligatr, and my opponent is actually going to stay in here and fire off a Drill Run, so they desync the switch timers by about 15 seconds. In comes Dragonair, and I make a misplay. I should have built up one more Shadow Claw before throwing and bluffed a potential Ice Beam, because a potential Ice Beam could have forced a shield from the Dragonair, whereas if I'm not at an Ice Beam, my opponent has no reason to shield. So they're unfortunately going to no-shield, land the Aqua Tail. I can't quite get a farm down, so I'm forced to fire off the Aerial Ace. The one thing that I can take advantage of, however, is when they bring in the Sandslash, they're not going to be able to switch for a couple seconds. In comes the Sandslash, I send in Typhlosion, 2 Incinerates, deleting Sandslash from the field of play, and in the back, it's Mantine. This was one of the most common meta cores last season, Shadow Alolan Sandslash and Mantine, and look at Shadow Typhlosion absolutely demolish it. This pacing is incredible. It's getting to a Thunder Punch every 2 Incinerates. Opponent is finally going to start firing off charge attacks, but they just have no way to outpace the energy advantage Typhlosion. I make it to the Shadow Thunder Punch, and Thunder Punch, not known for its damage, but it's KOing. Get that Mantine off my screen. That's a Shadow Typhlosion endgame sweep, and we're able to take the win. Moving to the next match, Shadow Gligar versus Shadow Dragonair. Gligar should typically be able to win the 2 straight Aerial Ace, so I'm not even going to build up to the dig. I want them to make the first shielding decision of the match, and they do exactly that. They're overfarming quite a bit and firing off the Aqua Tail. I'm going to shield back, and I will look to overfarm by 1 here. Opponent tries for a catch onto Lickitung, and that catch is unsuccessful as I'm able to hold onto my energy and now connect with the harder hitting dig. My opponent will be forced to throw a Body Slam basically right when they get it to prevent me from getting to dig number 2. This is still uncomfortable because there's still a Dragonair out there, but the important thing is that Dragonair does not have a move banked. So look at this. I'm going to go for a 1 shield farm down with Typhlosion. Typhlosion, of course, not going to do amazing without shields, but with 100 energy, they can't send in the Dragonair. I can just double Blast Burn and remove Dragonair from the field of play. Opponent sends in their final Pokemon, and it's Azumarill. I'm firing off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch will connect, sending in Feraligatr. Opponent is going to send in Dragonair. Dragonair will go for the Body Slam. I'm intentionally running the non-Shadow Feraligatr because I did want a bit of extra bulk on this team. Running 2 Shadows, especially with one as glassy as Typhlosion, you're often going to have to be very careful about your shields, so I wanted at least 1 Pokemon on the team that would, in fact, be able to hold its own. And now, we have Feraligatr making it to a move on 1 HP. In comes the Azumarill. Azumarill farming up. They're trying to get to the charge move, but Shadow Typhlosion has back-to-back Thunder Punches. Thunder Punch number 1 connects, winning charge attack priority. When was the last time you saw a fire type just bully a water type like this? Shadow Typhlosion is an insane amount of fun. We've got a bit of spice from the opponent in the next match, leading Shadow Gligar versus Shadow Drapion. Drapion, not a Pokemon that you see too frequently. In the Great League, at least. In the Ultra League, it is quite a bit more common. I'm going to farm up quite a bit of energy, and I decide to go for a bait. I'm expecting they are going to want to protect themselves against a potential dig. I switch into Feraligatr, and I do get the catch and the Shadow Claw through of this Aqua Tail. That's very nice, as now I can overfarm by 1, play to charge attack priority, and unless they're willing to give up both shields, I just get to remove Drapion from the field of play. That's terrific for me. They have a Mantine, and we already know what likes to see Mantine this season. It's going to be that Thunder Punch Shadow Typhlosion. The Crunch will connect. Unfortunately, no Crunch debuff. The opponent needs this plus 3 wing attacks to KO, or I'm going to be able to make it to a Hydro Cannon, and they just don't. So the non-Shadow Feraligatr putting in some work with this team, as I can use it to absorb some hits. In comes Typhlosion. They only throw 1 wing attack in the move, perhaps expecting the Incinerate to KO. I don't think it quite will, though. In the back, it's Bastiodon, and I need Shadow Gligar to clutch here for me. I'm farming up a ton of energy, and I'm going for a bait. If I get the bait, I can just make the dig. They shield, 2 wing attacks, and I reach the dig before the smackdown damage registers. This dig will do massive damage to the Bastiodon. In comes Typhlosion. Opponent knows I can just double up on Thunder Punches and win the game, so they resign the match. There's a big surprise in the lead in the next match, Shadow Gligar versus Galarian Stunfisk, a Pokemon that I haven't seen in absolute ages. And now they're going to safe switch to Pelipper. I fire off the Aerial to get some chip damage, and I send in Feraligatr. Opponent farms up to the Hurricane, so I am going to be respecting it with a shield. I do get baited, but watch this overfarm. I'm going to overfarm, so that way I'm going to be 7 Shadow Claws off of 2 more Hydro Cannons. This is a very important overfarm, and the reason why will become apparent momentarily. Because Galarian Stunfisk will need an Earthquake to KO me. Earthquake is 8 Mud Shots. So by making sure that I'm 7 off the back-to-back, I can guaranteed KO the Stunfisk or grab that shield back. They have the Earthquake here. They choose not to throw it, knowing that I have another move loaded, and Feraligatr wins charge attack priority, and just like that, I get my shield back. Stunfisk's energy is pretty useless into Gligar. Rock Slide's not going to do a lot. So their overfarm doesn't threaten me here whatsoever. I can just send in the Gligar in the back. Oh, they're running a new buffed Mon as well. They have Fearow. Unfortunately, Fearow is getting absolutely cooked by Incinerate. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Just purely off Incinerates, we almost have them KO'd. And again, that increased pacing is really nice on Typhlosion. I can get the double up. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We're looking for the 5-0 set, Shadow Gligar versus Carbink. Carbink, definitely a Pokemon that I have to be mindful of with the Typhlosion in the back. I'm farming up a ton of energy with the Gligar and going for the dig. Opponent has to make the first shielding decision of the match, and they do commit the shield. That's a bit unfortunate for me, but they overfarm and they play to a CMP tie that they do not win. The dig will connect, big damage. Opponent, at this point, I really don't think that I want to shield here, so I'm going to let this through. They can farm me down after, so I'm just going to save switch into Feraligatr. Opponent sends out Kofagrigus, and if this is their best response to a Feraligatr, then honestly, I'm feeling great about Typhlosion sweeping in this endgame. Opponent is going to fire off their energy right before I'm able to make it to a move, but I should be able to get a very nice overfarm here. So I'm going to shield up the Dark Pulse, look to overfarm, and go for the go for the Crunch as they make it to the Dark Pulse, winning charge attack priority. Crunch picks up the KO, in comes Poliwrath, and my guess is the opponent just misclicked and meant to send the Poliwrath into the Feraligatr, but not baiting this out is a bit of a problem because I'm going to try and make it to a move. I can't get there. I should have just switched, but I didn't, and now I'm in a position where this game is actually losable. They Scald, I shield, they snipe with the Carbink, and unfortunately, that's going to be game over for me. I could have had the 5-0. The team deserved the 5-0, but operator error on my part means, unfortunately, Carbink is going to take that win. We move to the next set. Opponent safe switches a Wigglytuff, and hello, Typhlosion. Now here, I should just go for a Blast Burn. Blast Burn's a guaranteed knockout, whereas Thunder Punch, this was actually my first battle with the team. I was wanting to test out how much it did, and it turns out you do want to Blast Burn. I decided to let it go. They go for the Icy Wind. Thanks to the Icy Wind debuff, they actually survived the Incinerate, but I'm still able to win it and exit with a Blast Burn loaded, which is honestly what I wanted. I wanted to leave with a Blast Burn loaded, because even debuffed, a Shadow Blast Burn is still going to add up onto the Bastiodon. And now, I decide to send in Feraligatr. I could have sent back in the Gligar, but I'm very much expecting that this is going to be another one of those very brainless Bastiodon, Victory Bell, Wigglytuff teams. And there it is. Hello, Victory Bell. And the good news is since we were able to realign and put the Feraligatr on the Bastiodon, this is a very straightforward win. So Aerial Ace will get the shield. I can throw one more wing attack and go for Aerial Ace number 2. My opponent's only play is to go for an Acid Spray onto the Feraligatr and just try and farm down, but realistically, it's not going to matter. They're too low from the wing attacks, so they go for the Acid Spray. Feraligatr gets that farm down. In comes the Bastiodon, and even with a bit of a misplay there, since it was my first game with Typhlosion, we're still able to very comfortably take the win, and the Toxic team does get eliminated. Moving to the next match, we see a bit of a core breaker on the lead here. The Shadow Gligar versus the Mantine. Oftentimes, as the Gligar, I do like to shield in this matchup, but I feel like Manteens have gotten very complacent into assuming that Gligars will always shield, so they think they can go for a safe bait. So I'm just going to call this. If I get Ice Beamed, I get Ice Beamed, but they Aerial Ace me, and now I'm back in the driver's seat of this matchup. I can get them very, very low, and then go for farm on Feraligatr, as Feraligatr just has a truly incredible amount of neutral play, especially now that Spark on Lantern has been nerfed. They Ice Beam to pick up the KO, I send in Feraligatr, and Feraligatr up this much energy is very scary to deal with. They send in Shadow Whiscash, so they are very, very weak to Feraligatr's energy, as Shadow Whiscash is by no means a response to Feraligatr. They actually no shield. I'm fine with no shielding back. I can just always throw 5 and then the move, and then 4 in the move. So in this case, I'm going to go for 4 in the move because Wishcast is 5-4, 5-4 pacing for Mud Bomb. So Hydro Cannon is going to pick up the KO. In the back, they have Diggersby, and the Diggersby is on quick attack, and this is a very straightforward win. I fire off the Hydro, get the shield, send in the Typhlosion, and at this point, my only lose con is to go for a Thunder Punch bait, as I can very easily make it to the double Blast Burns. They go for the Scorching Sands, fishing for a potential debuff. They actually get the debuff, but it's not going to matter, man. It's a Shadow Typhlosion. It's not going to matter. We see the Blast Burn connect. Opponent immediately concedes the match. We've got a mirror lead in the next match, Gligar versus Gligar, but my opponent does not have the Shadow. If you have the Shadow, Shadow's always going to be preferred to the regular in Open Great League, as the Shadow offers a tremendous amount of extra flexibility. I am going to fire off the Aerial Ace. This will do some pretty solid damage to my opponent. My goal is that I hope that they throw instantly so I can save energy on my Gligar and then just aggressively pivot into the Feraligatr. They throw the Aerial Ace. I'm going to get one turn switch because the wing attack damage had not registered yet. They send in Charge-a-Bug. This is a situation where being Shadow would be better because a Hydro can basically force the shield, but my opponent ends up shielding the Hydro anyway, trying to keep themselves healthy. I'm always going to no shield here. I'm just going for Typhlosion farm. They X-Scissor, and that proves to be a mistake as I can make it to a Hydro Cannon, and Hydro Cannon is going to do quite a lot of damage. I think this is Incinerate range. Let's see. Oh, they live with a fraction of HP. That's unfortunate. I mean, the good news is instead of 20 energy, I get 40, but I did have to give up a shield. And now I have a Shadow Typhlosion. It has an energy advantage, almost full health. They send in the Gligar. They're going for the Aerial Ace. I'm going to commit the shield. What do they have in the back? Opponent is going to send in their final Pokemon, and it is Feraligatr. I can't throw another Incinerate here because they're already 2 off the Hydro. So what I have to do is throw the Thunder Punches back to back and then look to make a combo play with the Gligar. So now the energy I saved from earlier comes in handy as Aerial Ace is going to pick up the KO. They're going to send in the Gligar, and they should be 2 off, so I should have the game won, but they get damage registration error. They get the charge attack off. This is a mechanic that's extremely inconsistent. Most of the time, they should faint with that move, but unfortunately, they actually get it, and that ends up turning into a loss. Shadow Gligar versus Annihilate, a great spot to be in. My opponent safe switches into Lickitung, and this team is a little bit soft to Lickitung. It is technically triple weak to it. I'm going to fire off the Dig, and the opponent actually gets the shield call right. They shield the Lickitung. At this point, I am just going to not shield the Gligar. I really see Gligar as just a vessel to get some damage and to force the opponent to throw energy, and then I'm just going to shield a bunch with Typhlosion and just go for an Incinerate farm down, as Typhlosion's energy with this Fire Electric coverage is very flexible into a lot of things in the meta. If you're looking for things that wall it, you're basically just looking at dragons or something like a Whiscash. So I am going to be committing the shield. I only have to shield once. They go for a Bad Manners Power Whip there, and they have a Water Gun Lantern. Oh boy, but Water Gun means that my Feraligatr is a lot better here. Thunder Punch is shielded, send in the Feraligatr. Opponent sends in Annihilate, and Annihilate is on 3 counters. Let's see. Can I get the farm down here before they make the Shadow Ball? 5, 6, 7. They're short. This game's a win. I can let this go. They're 1 short of the Shadow Ball, but guess what? It's the one Annihilate in the Great League still running close combat. Oh no. And unfortunately here, the Water Gun that registers as I try and click the double Thunder Punches is going to knock me out. Man, that is a heartbreaking way to lose a game. Hopping into the final match, Shadow Gligar versus Skeledirge, a great lead. Opponent safe switches into Umbreon. I don't have a hard punish for Umbreon, but that's again why Shadow Gligar, even though this team is ABA weak to water, It's ABA weak to a lot of things. I really, really love leading with the Shadow Gligar. Shadow Gligar is just insanely flexible into basically everything. And if you go up against like the one thing that really walls Gligar, which is Skarmory, you have two amazing responses in the back with the Feraligatr and the Typhlosion. They're going to go for the foul play. I'm going to massively overfarm. And I do know that 2 Aerial Aces will knock out, even though a dig will not. So I will commit the shield. They end up shielding the bait, and now I'm just going to go for the dig. This will do a lot of damage. The dig is going to connect. Opponent aggressively switches into the Skeledirge, and I'm going to switch out and send in my Feraligatr. And Feraligatr can outpace here. So we are going to see the Hydro Cannon get shielded. Opponent now at 80 energy on the Skeledirge. I can live a Shadow Ball. I'm not the Shadow Feraligatr. So again, I'm just going to save shields for Typhlosion. They end up baiting, and that is even better for me. You absolutely love to see it. Hydro Cannon picks up the KO. Are they going to send in the Umbreon? No, they're going to send in a Azumarill. Azumarill, a bit of a tough Pokemon to see if you have a Fire type in the back. But again, this is where having that Thunder Punch cheap coverage is very nice. In comes Typhlosion. Opponent forced to throw on less than ideal timing or just go over 100 energy. So they end up giving me 4 free turns, which is quite nice. And as the Typhlosion, I can throw on very nice timing here. So I will fire off the Thunder Punch. Their play to win this game, if I'm trying to get into the mindset of my opponent, will be to grab the shield and combo with the move on Umbreon. So I'm clicking the Gligar before I see a switch in so I can anticipate their play. We get the catch. And now we're just in a very straightforward situation where I can Thunder Punch instantly since I had lost count of Umbreon's energy. And Azumarill is not going to be able to make it to a move as it gets Incinerate farmed down by a Shadow Typhlosion. All in all, I had a massive amount of fun. Shadow Typhlosion is so improved. The PV Poke ranks do not show it as doing very well, but I think it is far better than the PV Poke ranks indicate. This is a very viable anti-meta Pokemon now. I'm not going to go ahead and say it's rank 1 on PvPoke or anything, but this thing can cook a lot of meta Pokemon, and I do think that we're going to be seeing, hopefully, quite a bit more of it, because it's a lot like Shadow Charizard in its playstyle, where you have the incredibly hard-hitting Blast Burn Nuke, and you have a cheaper bait move that offers some very nice coverage. So right off the bat, I love this change. This Pokemon was an incredible amount of fun to use, even though I did have to use my last Elite Charge TM to actually put Blast Burn on the Shadow Typhlosion. Man, it was so much fun. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.